Welcome to this awesome video about the Svelte plus Google Cloud Firestore. Guys, you have to follow this along. It is plain fantastic. I have been coding for many years and I have never seen something as good as this. This video is not sponsored by the Svelte. It's not sponsored by Google Cloud Firestore. It is just simply awesome because I am doing it and I am convinced this is an amazing way to code websites today. Let's start right away. So create a folder somewhere in your computer. I have created this folder called Svelte Firestore. Create it any way you want and hit the svelte.dev website. And I usually go to the REPL and then I download this and then I extract whatever I downloaded from there and I paste it inside the folder that I created inside this folder here, which is actually this folder there. So I paste it in there and then I get my code for Svelte. I no longer need this window and I also need to use Firestore here. Therefore, in the package.json, I will do a little change. There are many ways you can do this, but I find this to be a nice way to understand what we're doing. So over here, I'm going to create a new dependency, and this is going to be the dependency for Firebase. And the version I'm going to be using is 7.4.0. So this is my package.json. I pretend that you have installed Node.js in your computers. If not, please watch the videos that I put in the description below so you can get started with Svelte. This video is quite advanced, so I'm not going to get into tiny details about installation of Node.js and stuff like that. So once we have the Firebase dependency ready, we can close this. Go ahead, open the terminal, and we do npm install. This will take a little bit of time, so please, while we do this, go ahead and like the video, also subscribe and get notifications. During this video, we're going to build a user system so we can add users, delete users, and update users from within Svelte and Firestore. So this has been installed correctly. I don't see any errors here, as you can see it there. So this is set up and it's ready. We have the src folder and we have the public folder ready. So let's go ahead and do an npm run dev. And this is going to run the development environment. You can see a few things change there. And I'm going to point to localhost port 5000 here in the browser. So this is just the test to see if the Svelte is up and running. And it should be. So the app.svelte that contains this hello world, we can just delete that. And we save again, and this gets reloaded, and that gets updated automatically. All right, so that's the Svelte setup. Let's go and create a database. Go to console.firebase.google.com. You can just Google for it, console.firebase.google.com. And I'm going to create, once you have an account in Google and all that stuff, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call this Svelte users. Svelte-users. And I'm going to click continue. Let's leave this as it is, that's fine. Continue again. And I'm going to add this to my account. Yeah, that's me. So I create a project. And this will take a little bit of time. While that's happening, please again, like, subscribe, and get notifications. It takes me a lot of hours to make a video. So the least you can do is get notified and subscribe. Besides all that, guys, these videos are quite advanced, so you will learn so many good things. You're going to become a professional web developer following my channel. That's my goal, to convert you into a very good developer. So get into my channel. Let's continue now. So I have these Svelte users, and now I'm going to go to the database. I don't have a database inside this project called Svelte users. I'm going to go ahead and create a database, and I'm going to do it in test mode. Whatever it's there, it's going to be active for 30 days, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. So I'm going to change the location depending where you guys are. I'm going to select Europe. I'm going to click on done. It takes a little bit of time because the Firebase is setting up my database. So while that's happening, let me just walk you through this quickly. So far I have the Svelte app. We will also need the users app, and that will be the users.svelte. We will also need to create the next Svelte component, and this will be the user.svelte. And we also need the global data store, which is the database. So I'm going to zoom in this a little bit more so you can see it. And then I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it let's call it just firestore.js. So over here, we're going to have the connection to the database. Let's see if the browser is done. It's done. Let's start a collection. The collection name is going to be users. And I'm going to create just the email for the user, which will be @A. And I'm going to create a name for the user, which will be the letter A. This tutorial is not about databases, so I'm not going to start talking about collections and fields and stuff like that. So it's just Svelte with Firestore. So I hope you know something about it. So once we have this collection created, we need actually to connect our system to this database. Let's go to the project overview. I think that's I click project overview and then click on this web icon here. We're going to give a name for it. I will call it Svelte app. It doesn't really matter what you write in there. We do not need hosting. We just say register the app. It takes a little bit of time. And we get this out. Now, do not waste your time trying to copy this key from me, because I'm going to shut down this application after the video. So don't even waste time trying to inject data in my database and stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense. So let me just zoom out a little bit more so you can see here the copy. All right. So this is what we get out. So we can connect to the database. We don't need all of it. We only need a few things about it. So let's go to VS Code and let's close all these. Let's open the Firestore.js. And over here, we're going to import Firebase. And the reason we can do this is because we installed this extra package in the package.json. I'm going to install it or import it from the Firebase application. We save, nothing really happens. And then we're also going to import the Firebase /Firestore. So these are the two main imports that we have for this JavaScript file. And now we have to go to the website and we need to copy a few things. So let's grab, you could grab all of it, but let's just take this from here and take it all the way down to the config. We don't need the analytics. We're not going to be analyzing anything there. So just copy that part and move to your development environment and place it right in there. So the only thing we need to add extra to it is that we need to export a constant called db. You can call this db whatever you guys want. And the reason we are going to export the db is because that's going to be the connection to the database. And we're going to connect to the Firebase.Firestore. So all these commands are coming from the API. You can go and read more about it. I save, and then we have this connection to the database via this variable ready. Let's now go to the app.svelte. Follow up, guys. This is really amazing. Once you get all this connected, you're going to be surprised of what you can build with a little bit of knowledge and a few lines of code. So we're going to import users from, and we're going to extract it from the users.svelte component. And over here, we're just going to use the users because we're going to have a user that we can add to the system. So now I'm going to take the browser that we have seen here, and I am going to put this right there, and just like so. So like that, we can see the changes happening live here, like I usually do. So users are there. I'm going to open the users.svelte, and over here I'm going to create a script tag, and I'm going to put the spaces. This is just so I can see where the script tag opens and it ends. And I'm going to also create the styling for it. And the styling in this video tutorial is going to be at the bottom of it, because I have usually seen that I have the style in the middle and the DOM elements at the bottom, and then I have to scroll up and down constantly. So I have this set up. I will copy all of it. I'm going to go to the user.svelte. I'm going to paste there as well. So the same template basically. So let's go to the users Svelte now, and we're going to see what we can do there. So the first thing we need to do in the users is we want to display the user I created in the Firestore in this database that I had just previously done. The database is gone. I don't want to enlarge it, but you know that I put the add A and the user A in there. That's what I want to see here. So what I will do is I'm going to say that I want to import the variable db, which is the connection to the database, from my store. And actually my store, I happen to call it Firestore.js. You can call this whatever you guys want. So this here is just pointing to that file over there. And once I have imported the Firestore, I want to be able to extract all those users inside my users array. So this is going to be the Svelte array that will contain the users coming from the database. So over here, I am going to create an each loop actually. Yeah, because we need to loop through each of the elements. So let's create here a div with the ID users. And inside this div with the users, we're going to display all the users. So over here, oops, something went wrong there. So over here, we'll create an each loop, and then I close the loop. And what I want to loop is through each of the users. So I will say loop through each of the users and take each of the user as a user. And that's what I want to do. And here I will just, for now, display a div that says user. So this is just hard coded. I save, nothing really happens here. It's not crashing. Let's see. No, it's working fine. So great. So in the app.svelte, that's my users. I don't have any users. So if I say here user, the user is popping up there. So that's working okay. It takes a little bit of time every time I save because it's connecting to the Google Firestore. That's why the result doesn't show there right away. So what I need to do now is I need to actually get the users from this database and put it inside that array. To do that, I'm going to say, go to the database, get me the collection that we call users, and I don't have a timestamp or anything. So for now, I'm just going to say on snapshot. That's the command that you have to use. And over here, I'm going to get on the snapshot, I'm going to get the data, which is the whole thing. That's just the data. And this data is going to run this function. Actually, that's the callback. And what I will do is I'm going to say that the users, that's my array of users, equal the data.docs. Now, this here, guys, is nothing that I'm inventing. data comes from the Firestore, and .docs are my individual documents. So that I will put inside the users. So each individual user. I save. I see one user here, and that's because I only had the user A. So if I go to my database here, and here something really nice is going to take place. If I let me take this out like so, and let me place this there and that there. So you can see the database connected to the Svelte application. I'm going to create a new user here. I'm going to add a new document. The field is going to be the email. I will say that's the @B. I'm going to add a new field, the name, and the name will be B. As soon as I save, you see that a new user pop up in there, because Svelte is automatically connected to Firebase, which is really amazing. So now that we have that, let me just leave that open there so I can continue coding here. So those are my users. So now I need to be able to add a user. Let me just do this again so it's easier to see it. All right. So once I have that done, I am actually going to be able to display each individual user. Let's do that. So if in each individual user, what we need to do is we need to also import the database from same as the users component from firestore.js. I save, nothing really changes. And over here, instead of displaying a div user, I'm actually going to import each of these users. Let me just indent this correctly. So I'm going to import the user from the component called users.svelte. Save. Now, nothing really shows there. And here I need to invoke each of the user elements. Nothing is displayed because my users don't have any data. So I'm going to create a div with the class user. And this is so I can style it. And over here, I would like to display, just for now, I will just say name, hard coding name. Save. It doesn't reload, so I must have a bug somewhere. Let's see. Scrolling down. So this is fine. Circular dependency users.svelte, users.svelte. All right, yes. Let me just do this here. I have to import from user.svelte. So now it should reload. I have two names. In reality, I don't need these names, but I know that I have the two users being correctly used in the system. So my idea is that in here we'll have an input box, so I can display the name of the user and then I can change the name of it. Inside the users, let me show you what the user contains. And this is a little bit tricky because this user actually is an object, and if you want to display the ID of the user, you can say user.id. That's something coming from Firestore. So that will give you the ID of the user. And that ID is from Firestore, that ID is from Firestore. So now you know how to get the user.id. If you guys want to see what the user contains, then you can just point to the data. And this will be an object. Save, you see the object. If you json.stringify the object, then you should see what the user actually contains. So now you know that you have the user.id and the user.data invoked as a function to get the data from the user. Since that is needed here inside the individual user, I'm going to create two functions, two variables for it. Actually, I need the ID of the user, which for now is nothing. And this ID will be injected from the user's component. Therefore, I'm going to export it. I also need another variable, which will be the user in itself, which is a JSON object. It is what I just did here before. this user.data. That is the object, and that needs to be injected in here. Since that is going to be injected, we need to export it as well. So now I have these two variables ready for me to populate it with data. Let's put some data in there. So we go to the user call here, and then we're going to say that the ID of the user is going to be the user.id. This ID is this variable there, and the user equals the user.data, and this user.data is going to be placed inside this user, which is this variable. So I save, actually it reloads, and that's a good sign because nothing is broken. So over here, if I want to actually display the name of the user, and that's going to be inside an input box. So I will create the input box, and this input box is type text, and I'm going to put the value of the user in here. So this will be the user.email, because I want actually the email also. Save. I see the emails. I will duplicate this line, and then I'm going to show the name of the user. Save it. I have the name, and since this is a CRUD application, create, read, update, and delete, I'm creating the button to be able to delete, and I have previously copied this waste basket, so I just paste it in there, and then I save it. So these are my two users. I will start quickly. So I'm going to say that the user class is going to be display grid. I'm going to create my template columns, and 3, 10, 3 fractions. So I have my 3, 1, 3. Let's see how it will look like. And then I'm going to add a grid gap of 10 pixels in between each of the users. So this is what I get out. Not really that nice, but that's because I have to play with my global CSS here, and then I will make a few changes to it. So we just delete it. Let me just see if I have a global CSS from an other application, so I don't have to type all of it. Let me see if this will work. Copy and paste. Let's see what I have here. In this global CSS, I save. Nothing really changed here. I will do that. Okay, great. So that's my global. I don't even know if this is actually doing something. Yeah, it is actually. So this tutorial is not about CSS, but it looks good there. Quickly, I can show you that I have nothing. This is just the normal thing. So it was something wrong in the refresh of it. So that's my application so far. That's fine. Let's continue. So inside the users here, if I add a new user from my database, which is that database, I will do it like so now. I'm going to add a new document right there. The email field will be @C, and the name will be the letter C. I save. It pops up there right away. So that's great. Now I need to hook, that's the creation of it. I need to hook it to my system. So let's be able to create a user from here. So let's go to the users.svelte, and we're going to be able to add it right there. I'm going to create a div, and that will be for a user because I want to be able to add a user. This class user has nothing to do with this class over there because Svelte encapsulates its style in each component. So I'm going to create a form in here. I don't need an action. And I also need the input for the email, the input for the name, and then I need a button that says add the user. So let's create the input fields, an input type text, and then duplicate, and then a button here, and the button will be to add a user. So it says add. I save. So it's not going to look that good because the styling is not perfect. So we just grab this style here, and then I will paste it inside the users component right there. Save it. So hopefully it looks right. Nope. Div class user. Let's see what happened with the style here. Oh yeah, because my user is inside a form, so I need to say the user form. So that's looking good. So this is the idea that I can do add D and then the name D, and when I click on add, this should pop up in there. But when I click here, you can see that the form is being reloaded. So what you need to do is you need to go to this form, and then we're going to say on submit, that's the event, on submit, we're going to call the function add user. So let's call it add user. But in Svelte, we have this, call it decorator or whatever the name of it is. So we can actually say prevent default. So we tell the form that when it's submitted, it's actually not going to reload the page, and it will call the function call add user. So over here, if I save, you're going to see what happens. It crashes because this function does not exist. So I copy that, and then I'm going to say const add user equals an arrow function. And the idea of it is that I need to add to this function the data. So in this case, I'm going to add the email and the name. Now the email and the name somehow need to be placed in a variable. So I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it let email equals nothing and let name equals nothing. So those are my two startup variables. Let me just place this like so you understand it. This email and that name are going to be passed to the cloud, to Firestore. But this email and that name need to come actually from here. So I'm going to hook the elements. I'm going to make them reactive. So what I will do is I'm going to say bind the value, and this value that's for the email is going to be binded to the variable email, and I'm going to say bind the value to the name. So whatever value I write in the text box will be put in this email variable, and whatever value I write in this text box will be going to the name variable. Save it. Takes a little bit of time, and nothing really happens so far because I'm not saving any data to the cloud. So now I need to add the user and put it in the cloud. So I say the database, go to the collection. Remember, DB points to the cloud database. To the collection called users, and I want to add this object. And the object is going to be the email and the name. So this is structuring the object. So I will just do this like so you can see how little effort it takes to add a new user to the cloud. So I save it. Let's reload. So I'm going to now add D and then the D name. As soon as I click add, you can see that it pops up there. If I reload, the D is there. Now the order is different because Firestore is ordering this in a way based on the IDs. I should order this via timestamp. I will show you how to do that. But before I do that, if I say add E and then the name is E, you can see that this should be deleted. So to delete that, that's pretty simple. Once I have added, I say that email is nothing and the name is nothing. And since this is reactive, because these variables here are hooked to the value of the text boxes, that will do the job. I save. I will add F and F. And now I'm not going to click on add. I'm just going to hit enter. And then F and F pop up there. So this is what I have so far. Now let's be able to delete the elements, and then I will do the edit elements. To delete the elements, we have to go to the user.svelte, and in here, in this button, we're going to say on click, and then we're going to call the function delete user. This function does not exist, so I need to create it. I will create it here, const delete user, and then I just throw there an arrow function. Now, this is pretty cool. Remember that this user, each of these users, that one, and so on, each of them, they are hooked to its individual ID and its individual user object. So when I want to delete a user, I can say db.collection, and I'm going to point to the collection users, and I want to point to the document which contains that ID. This ID is reactive. It knows that this refers to this button or that button and so on. And what I want to do is I want to delete it. Delete. Like so. Let's test it. I save. I'm going to delete F, D, A, C, B, E. I reload. All my users are gone. If I create a new user at A, and then I'm going to say at B, B, my users are there. There's still one issue here. If I do BBB, and then I reload, you can see that the data has not been saved. So that needs to be updated. And here comes the really awesome part. I'm going to create a function called update user. So that's the function. And I'm going to call that function every time I change something in the text box. So on input, that is an event, I want to call the function update user. And on input on the other text box, I want to call the function update user. Now you could make this quite complex and analyze, are you updating the email or are you updating the name? Well, keep it simple. If you update anything about the user, let's just Firestore handle the update. So let's go to the update user function. And over here, we're going to say that the DB collection, we point to the collection users again. We're going to point to the document, which is the user's ID. And then we're going to run the function update. So this function update takes an object, the object that we want to update. And since we are telling which ID this user contains, then we have just to say that the email is going to be the user.email. Remember that the user's email is reactive. It's hooked to this text value, to the box. So we just say that email is the user email, and we say that the name is the user.name. I save it. It reloads. I'm going to now do a whole test. I'm going to say add C with C. I add, I reload. My data is persistent. It's there. I will say A1. I reload. It's not saved. So now we need to check why this is happening. DB collection users, we don't have any box, any errors here. And then when we say on input, we call the update user. That's the function we are calling. Yes, this is one thing that I am forgetting. This value is actually displaying the email, and this value is displaying the name, but I did not bind the values to the user object. So if I say bind value and then bind value, that means that any change inside this text box is going to be hooked to the value of the user email or the username, and that value is actually in here. So that's reactive now. I save. A1, reload, B2, reload, C3, reload. It is reactive and the data is persistent. I will delete B, reload. I will delete C, reload. Now the only final thing we need to do is how do we order this. So if I say add B, B, you see that the B pop up before the A, and that's quite annoying. So let me show you how we do that. Please guys, this is quite awesome. I think it's really awesome. So I really hope that you will subscribe to this channel, like the video, and get notifications. Please go ahead and do it. It doesn't cost you anything. So to finalize this, let's see how I could order this somehow. So if you want to order it, let's go to the users.svelte. When I add a user, I'm actually going to create a variable const, and I'm going to throw in here a created field. If this was a relational database, this will be a column, but this is just an entry, a key called created, and this will be the new date, and I want to get the time. This will give me a timestamp, so this will give me a number that is the amount of seconds in which I created this object. You want to read more about it, go and read about epoch timestamp. So once we have the created field, I'm going to throw that inside this object here, created, and this will give me the created data. So I save, and I will show you what I get out of if I say add C and C. I click on add. Let me show you what my database contains. Over here I have A, I have C. You see this number here? This number here is the data that I injected in each of, well, at least in this document. But now I need to do that in order. So I will go here and let's do that over here. Whenever I select the users, I'm going to say that I want to order by, and I'm going to order the users by the created field. Let me just do like so you can see the whole thing like that. So I said, select the users, order the users by the created field, and then get me the data and put it inside that array. I save. I'm going to delete everything so I can just reload. So I'm going to add A with the name A, and then I'm going to add B with the name B, and the latest C with C. I will make a change to A, that will be AA, AAA. Let's do a 2, let's do a 2, 2, reload. The data is there. All right, guys, this is really, really awesome. I hope that you are going to like, subscribe, that's really important for me. And I will be making quite advanced videos in the coming weeks. So keep along, and thanks for watching this awesome Svelte and Google Cloud Firestore video.